Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We could remain standing and remember our men and women in the armed forces. Thank you. We use the microphone. Yes. No, not tonight. Not tonight.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, public comment on agenda items. Is there anyone who wants to make any comments on the agenda items? Yes, ma'am. Just state your name and your address.
Okay, hi, my name is Daniel Ewart. I live at 23 Sweezy Avenue. And I'm new to that street for about a year now. And I'm here to see what they have to say about the road extension. Because during the winter months, it poses a lot of challenges for myself and my neighbors. Either I end up losing my spaces or blocking him in, and either my family or both of our families end up having to park on Prospect. So we wanted to see where that was leading to.
And you're in the house, the last one on the left?
Correct.
Going down?
The last one.
I know where you are.
Okay.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Ma'am?
My name is Linda Carson Ghost, and I have the same issues as Mrs. Danielle. When it snows, it's like Squeezy Avenue is on a dead end, and it's like it's dumping grounds there. The snow, we shovel it and we get plowed in. When you enter Squeezy Avenue, you can't see to get out because they pile the snow up so high. And I want to know what the issues with that is.
Well, okay, and I understand that, and the heavy snowstorms, I can see that happening. So our highway superintendent is here tonight, and that will be something that we talk about within the next week or two before the snow flies. So that's a little different than her concern, but I got that one too.
Please do.
Yeah, I'll write it down.
It's chaos.
Yep. So, so we're talking snow on Sweezy, the dead end, right?
Yes.
Thank you.
Vicky, you want to say something?
No, I agree with the situation with that, as far as.
But he lives on the street also, so now's the time that you can talk.
Yeah, it's really a problem.
Okay. What we have to do is get up to them. I know, but that's what I have to do. Just state your name, your address, and I promise you there's no payment.
I'm Michael Becker, I live at 10 Prospect, and my driveway is on Squeezy. So
Oh, you're in the White House?
Yes, on the very corner. So I'm dealing with the snow coming down all the time, and I'd like to have that, alleviated.
Well, we're going to address the snow plowing in that area.
Okay.
Knowing, we all know, once we get a lot of snow, and then we get another storm on top of that, there are going to be some piling up of snow, but.
Oh, yes,
but
if
I-
Squeezy went down all the way.
I think I know what you mean.
You know what I mean?
Yep. Okay. Anything else? Okay, I'm gonna move on.
So
Yep.
when the agenda for the Squeezy comes up, that's when I can speak or not? I have to speak now?
No, now.
All right.
My name is Richard Zizi. I own a house at 23 Sweezy Avenue at the end of the road. I've been coming in front of the board and anticipating having the extension of the road. It's a pre-existing road. A road that, if anyone else doesn't know, is a dedicated road. It was a paper road, just like any road in Manhattan, and became a dedicated road that the municipality took over it, and they maintain it. And it was paved all the way down to my driveway on 23 Sweezy Avenue at one point in time. And it wasn't continued maintained. There is a sidewalk, with a curb, and a road underneath the dirt that's there, infrastructure where there's gas lines and either water lines. I know there's a manhole there, whether it's a stormwater drain or sanitary, either or. It's a road that, all the way back, this is the 4th year I've been coming to the board and discussing the extension of this. And back then, there wasn't even a dead end sign. I mean, there was nothing, it wasn't developed whatsoever. And prior to buying, when I was in the process of buying the house, I went out there and I had Mayor Joe went out there, and DPW then was, no, it was Pat Patterson, and he met there, and we discussed this road. Now, underneath the dirt that's there, the pre-existing dirt that was there and has been there since I bought the house is a paved road. But it's been a dumping grounds for somewhat quite a while. And there's barriers at the end of the road. And it was really difficult for me to work on this 1898 house that we developed. I mean, everything from top to bottom, roof all the way down. And so I spent a lot of time and money in doing this. And with the notion that I would eventually have the road be able to access my driveway, which has been on the assessment all the while this driveway is pre-existing, as well as what the road is pre-existing. At this point in time, it's like 2 administrations, 4 DPWs, 4 years later, the planning board I went in front of, and they all approved it, and I still don't have this done. Now, they were going to extend the road recently, and the prior DPW, I tried to discuss this with the existing DPW supervisor, John Jones, and expressed to him the understanding that I had that the prior Gary Boyce was proposing to do. And it's hard to describe something that's in someone else's mind, and I attempted to do so for a couple of months. And I wanted to I would like to have Gary Boyce. He's 20 years experience. He knows how to deal with the road building and design and all. I know with John Jones, I mentioned that there was a talk of stairs, and he was like, my guys can't build stairs, and we ain't gonna stairs. I said, well, that isn't like written down, and doesn't have to go that route. I said, a barrier next to the existing sidewalk, and you could just pave between the barrier and the wall, or a building block, so as that you just pitch down, eliminate the sidewalk, because the sidewalk doesn't necessarily have to go in front of my house. It's going to be a road. There isn't enough room to turn around on that road as it is. It's unnecessary to have the sidewalk. As well as Orange and Rock or Central Hudson came and they dug up and put new lines in. In doing so, they put this boulder, the boulder, no exaggeration, it's this big, and they pushed it down the road and they put it across from my driveway, among other stones and rocks and things of that sort. I took what was existing there and moved it on the right there, which there still is a large amount of dirt and rock and boulders and stuff, and had my guys push it down there to raise it up a little bit, as well as where my driveway is. Now, when I first talked to John Jones, his associate, they were saying to lower the driveway. Now, if you go and you look at my house and you lower, you can see the bottom of my foundation. I can't go any lower. So I recommended what I thought was going to be done, and I didn't touch the sidewalk at all because it's not my property and I have no right to. But was going to be to fill over that and push additional dirt down the road. Because on the drawing that was submitted, this is a drawing that, site plan that was submitted to the village back then in 9/2015. On it was an additional 15 feet per DPW. Now, Gary Boyce wanted that 15 feet beyond my driveway so as to have because it's basically a depot for snow, which is appropriate because there's no access all the way down to the road. There's a stone wall on the right, a stone wall on the left. There's no reason no one has any use for it other than a
Can I
path.
see that?
Huh?
Can I see this? Other than a path. That goes down to there's a retaining wall, I guess it's about 4 foot high, down at the bottom of this
the street. Well, it was the street. And so it's not going to be utilized as a street at all. Now, the pitch, the existing pitch, is no more, is by far less than the pitch on Drew, on Depew Avenue. So it's not extravagant, but common sense would say to utilize what's there and build it up 1 foot 6 inches at the most. So what I did was, over the last, on Friday, I gave, so what happened is, after about 2 months of trying to work with John Jones and the mayor, when I talked to John Jones, evidently there was miscommunication between when I talked to John Jones and when I talked to Mayor Joe. Right, so I wrote a letter to Mr. Ramos. If I could,
Well, look, I don't want to,
okay, all right.
well, I want to give you the time, but
All right.
I can't do 4 years of history, but
No,
the engineer is going to speak
this is
on
just
it.
Friday. This
I
is just
understand.
Friday.
The engineer is going to speak on this when it's on, when we get to it on the agenda, and if need be, I will allow you to also.
All right, well, I do want to
So I
point
got-
out this one thing of what the issue was. I drew an elevation, and this is actually the heights of the pitch of the road. And this is all that it is that's added to try, this is my driveway right here. This is all that's, at this point, it's 1 foot 8. After that, the road starts pitching steeper. But right here, all I'm doing is recommended, even for the snow removal, so when the trucks go down there, it's, you're not going to utilize the rest of the road anyway. You know, so I tried to express that this line here on the other side of this barrier, the other side is a wall, and here's a sidewalk. That all you have to do is pave between the two and add it to the end of the new paved road. You know, so I understand that wasn't depicted, as well as not referred or incorrectly or miscommunicated between him and Mayor Joe. Because whenever I talked to Mayor Joe, he had no idea what I was talking about when I was talking what I was saying to John Jones, or they just weren't on the same page. So that's why I went ahead and drew that and drew these plans that show just what was to be done. It shows precisely, you know, the area that's going to be filled in and where the barriers would go. And so is that they could do that and then just add extra dirt beyond the barriers. And I agree with when I hear that it's recommended to having a guardrail. I said, yeah, I would recommend that too. I think that would be a safety feature. But I mean, first we have to start out with a dead-end road sign, you know, so I'm looking forward to seeing this done. I've been waiting a long time. It's been a lot of privilege to do this, so
Okay,
thanks.
okay, thank you. No?
Yes.
I'm going to do it right now. I'm going to move on something on the agenda.
Thank you, Dan.
And Chief, if you could come forward with your, the applicant here, Stephen Smedley. Now, Stephen Smedley was interviewed by the Chief of Police. Who else was there? Was Torquay? Sorry, okay. And then, as what we do here before we appoint, we interview him, and that's what we did tonight. It was a good interview, I appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Yeah. And so, upon the request of Chief Scott, the appointment of a part-time police officer, Stephen Smedley, step 1 of the PBA contract for part-time police, and with maximum probation. And if we could have a motion. Is there anything you want to add, Chief?
No, sir.
Okay.
I'll make a motion.
Motion by trustee Livesey, is there a second?
Second.
Second by trustee Bauer, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Welcome.
Appreciate it.
Under discussion, I'm not sure if it fits discussion, I have 2 things. I want to, I don't know if it's an apology, but I'll say it. I want to apologize for myself and the rest of the board for last meeting 2 weeks ago when we approved the inflatables for the grand opening of the new bakery. Upon further investigation with the insurance company, it's not just bouncy houses, it's inflatables. So that means any inflatable, including the ones that were at the grand opening. So while that was a mistake, we're past that, and from now on, there's no inflatables allowed on village property per the village insurance company. Number two, before I move on, under new business, I'd like to have a motion to appoint Elise Strahoon as the village attorney from today to April 1, 2019.
I'll make that motion.
You okay with that? Okay, we're going to do that under, you know what, new business is next, so go ahead, Brian, make the motion now.
Make a motion.
That we have Elise Strahoon as named as the village attorney
Till April 1st.
to April 1, 2019. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by the rest of the board. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. You're welcome. New business. Approve the minutes. We had a regular meeting 2 weeks ago, October 1, 2018. You have those before you. I have a motion to accept the minutes.
Make a motion to accept the minutes.
Motion by trustee Howard, is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by trustee Ramus, all in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, so here we are, I didn't know it was this close to the beginning of the meeting. So Sweezy Avenue Road Extension. As Mr. Zizi indicated, I was up there more than a couple of times. I know John Jones has been up there quite a bit. The engineer has been up there. I'm not sure who else. That's this board. Previous board, I can't answer for. We have our engineer with us tonight. Pat, what would you like to tell us about this?
Yeah,
In your opinion?
I was able to do a site review. I did just receive copies of the drawings today, but there was some sketches available during the site review. I do concur with the property owner's statements that he made, is that this is never going to be a through road. There are issues of grading, of grades, and the retaining wall to the east. It appears that this project, as proposed by the property owner, would benefit that individual property owner. I've heard the snow removal issues and such, but I think those can be addressed. It's a little more proposed than just regrading the road. There's retaining walls needed to make the grades meet on the east side. There's some sidewalk issues. There's some ADA compliance issues with extending those sidewalks. The village can't just build sidewalks that are compliant with the ADA requirements. One of the things in looking at this that I suggested was I don't believe that this property benefits the village at all. And the village may want to take a look at abandoning that portion of the former roadway and offering or somehow transferring title to that to adjoining landowners, which would then allow the adjoining landowner, should he wish to undertake a project such as this, to go ahead and construct that project. It relieves the village of any liability of retaining walls, of building roadways that don't meet your village specs. Obviously, you have some roads that don't now, but now you do have some specifications. You're kind of held to those. So that was what I was thinking. It also gets that property back on the village tax rolls. There are some utilities in there, but easements could be provided for those utilities if that property can be transferred to those adjoining owners, and you won't be undertaking a project which really benefits one parcel with village funds.
And in my time, I've never transferred public property through sale or some other kind of way. So that's something at least we would have to talk about. But Mr. Zizi, I think what he's saying is, if the property was transferred to you in some mechanism that we have to go by, could be a for sale. I don't know, I've never done it.
I would prefer to just pave the road, the existing road where it is.
Yeah,
It's pre-approved, it's already pre-made, the infrastructure, everything's there, just pave over it and I'll deal with getting it in the ground.
so you're not at all up for discussion on you taking over the property and doing what you need to do?
Because there's nothing I could ever do with it other than use it as a driveway. As well as the people, all the people.
Excuse me.
As well as all the people on the road are looking forward to moving the snow down beyond the house.
Yeah, the snow I'm gonna take care of.
Well, I mean, still, it's been an issue for many, many years, and they've been asking me all this time, you know, are we getting the extension? So, I mean, the barriers, I have the engineer saying, the barriers, after a barrier, you just put dirt after it, and it's just steeper after, it's not, no drop. But the thing is, even without it, just repaving the existing road, and go beyond it a little more, the existing approved road, so the snow can go beyond it. It would advance everybody on the street, because what happens is that the amount of snow, there were incidents where I called up Kevin Hurst and went down there, couldn't even get to the house, it was so piled up at the end there. So it's understandable, you have everybody and their brother, I mean, from Kevin McCarthy to who knows who, plowing, trying to clear the community, which is understandable. But in this instance where someone that's versed, the prior DPW on dealing with the snow there, had seen the opportunity to move it down further. So just to pave that, I can get my driveway a little bit further, which is 15 foot, would open up the avenue, leave the existing sidewalk, you don't have to deal with something, you're not changing any codes, you know, and just pave what's already there. And it would benefit everyone on the street as well as the community, and me so I can get in my property.
Mr. Mayor, just very quickly, I don't have all the details on this, but I would say that number one, you cannot expend village monies to benefit only one property owner. So should you do this, you would have to do an analysis, a thorough one, of who's going to be benefited. It's also possible, if you're going to do something like that, and it would benefit multiple property owners, you could consider creating a benefit area and actually charge the expense back to the benefit. That's another option.
We've done that, and we've done that before in another area of the village.
A third option would be to abandon the road and allow it to be transferred to abutting property owners. I'd have to look into the process there, but so long as the road is no longer useful to the village and it doesn't connect anything and isn't used, could certainly be abandoned. So those are the three options that I think that you're just, you know, in general, that you would have as a village board. I can't make a recommendation as to any one of the three yet because I want to confer with the engineer and just take a look at what you might do.
Pat, do you have anything else? We talked about the neighbor's wall up there.
Yeah, to the, I'll say the south side, there is a retaining wall. It's some old timber type retaining walls that can be an issue as the village starts doing some regrading work. Those could be impacted. So there's additional issues regarding that and where the roadway would be graded and constructed.
The extension's beyond that.
The extension is
Beyond that.
the work that we would do to make the road butt up against the retaining wall. That's what I remember when I was up there.
There's a stony retaining wall where you'd be extending. This existing wall that's there that is being described is already paved and need not be paved.
Okay. Does the board have anything?
Oh, we're gonna have to wait to give us more information.
Yeah, we're gonna have to continue this talk and maybe even if it's a possibility, I know it's tough, but if as many of us, if not all of us, meet up there.
I would say that
With
would be
Pat.
the best thing to meet up there and
Yeah.
take a good visual.
Thank you.
Okay. I will let you know, Rich, when we're gonna meet up there, if you can be there.
Yes, please.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Ladies, thank you for coming, and we heard you. I heard about the snow. I understand your plight. Next on the agenda is Schneider Avenue Drainage Project. Engineers agreement. We spoke the other day, the property owner is in concurrence with the plans,
With some modification.
with one modification that I know of, the sidewalk piece,
Sidewalk.
section, right?
It's my understanding he wants the stairways replaced rather than saw cut. routing for the drainage pipe.
And did you get that from Sean? Okay, so then I guess I should say whatever Sean says. I didn't know it was steps, I thought it was part of the sidewalk.
Yeah, it's my understanding it's the sidewalk and then the series of steps going down between his house and the garage next door. So it'll add, it's quite a bit of expense to reconstruct. The initial plan showed a saw cut, approximately 2 feet wide. And his concern was that he didn't want the new mixing with the old and looking like he would have a stripe of new concrete down the stairways there.
Right.
So he was concerned about that look and the long-term about that and wanted it between his house and the neighbor's property, all that masonry work.
Okay, so where are we? Where are we in relationship to going out to get a, depending on what you think is the price, quote or bid?
Yeah, it's going to be a bid.
Okay.
The extent of work is going to exceed the $35,000
Right.
for public bidding. When we initially looked at it, the project kind of expanded because the drainage comes from uphill and across the street. Initially, there's a catch basin right across the street that we kind of, before we did the surveys, looked like it was going to be tied into there. But we actually had to run pipes diagonally across the street and up the hill. From, I know some of the board members have been out there. So that added some additional pipe work. So it's going to certainly exceed the $35,000. And in this bidding climate that we're having right now, it's absolutely going to be, the prices are coming in relatively high.
So when will we be able to go out to bid?
We could have this out to bid within 2 weeks of tonight. The board telling us that they want to modify that concrete. I do want to have one of our structural engineers take a look at the impacts of that to the adjoining garage foundation, make sure we stay far enough away from that. So there may be some of that has to stay, so we don't disturb the integrity of that existing garage.
All right, so the board is, I believe, that they're in agreement with this issue of drainage has to be fixed. It is our water, and we need to channel it off the right way. So if the board is okay, we'll have the engineer modify the existing plans, and then let's go to bid.
Consistent, yeah, and then we'll need to have follow up with easement documents or license agreements. I don't know if those have been signed yet. They did sign authorization to do the design.
Yeah, I would say that
It's but that has nothing to do with this.
it sounds to me though like there's a difference between what the engineer, there's a difference between what the plan says right now and what the property owner wants. So then, is that correct?
Yes.
So then the question is the board willing to go beyond what is necessary to, I guess, widen those steps so that all the steps are replaced all the way across the width of the steps, I think is what the
Yes.
property owner is asking for.
So Elise, I appreciate that, and I can tell you that, while John is here, he concurred, Sean, the engineer, concurred with this additional
Yeah, Sean from my office.
concrete, yeah. So I think
Go across.
we're okay.
Okay, so,
And you agree with that, right?
Yeah, it's an aesthetic issue. It's not more of a design issue, but it's what do you want your yard to look like if it was coming through your yard? He mentioned that he doesn't want this new strip of concrete coming across his steps in his patio area, which is kind of a real usable portion of his yard.
And I would add that we have issues right now with central officer coming in and putting patches down the center of the road. Nobody likes to see that on our roads. I'm sure a property owner wouldn't just want to see a patch. So if we could accommodate something more aesthetically pleasing, I think that's in the best interest of everybody.
I think the process was to be that the property owner would sign off on the plans and provide easements to the village. So I haven't really seen, I did draft easements. I don't know if we prepared the meets and
documents.
bounds.
So a couple things. Has he given, because that was going on between you and his attorney.
No, I think he was waiting on the plans.
So we
I
need
think-
easements.
Which he has the plans then.
Yeah, he has the plans, so my.
Verbally, he has concurred with the plans.
Then he needs to provide the easements. In the meantime, it's certainly okay to go out for bid. You haven't awarded the project yet. So go out to bid, and then in the meantime, I will reach out to his attorney.
You'll do that about the easements?
Yes.
Okay, good.
But
So,
nothing starts without the easements.
Right. Can't access the property.
Yes.
He's given
Yes.
my firm the ability to access the property for surveys and design, but he hasn't to the village to construct.
He's got to do that.
and are we going on school property?
That's the other caveat I was just gonna say, yes, there's about 8 feet onto the school property, replacing existing.
So we need an easement.
You may have one by use right now, but I think we do need to contact the school to
Yep.
get some form of permission from them. The
Please.
pipe comes across this subject property currently and into a drainage structure on the school property, which would be replaced under this project as well.
Okay, I'll reach out to the school.
So this is, we're getting there. Just a couple more things, and then we can hopefully, before winter, hopefully.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that after we have everything in place if there's time. Okay. Anything else on 65 Snag? Okay. North End sidewalks. So the bids came in, and 3, I think several more picked up but didn't return. And they're quite hot,
They're very high.
very hot. So what I would ask the board is, what I think we should do is reject the bids. I would like you to sit down with us, Pat, and describe to us exactly the alternative.
Which we have done in-house to come up with some other ways to reduce some costs and maybe break it out into 2 alternatives rather than the one we have now. So if in fact the bids do come in high. Those bids, I mean, right now sidewalks should go for about $80 a square yard, and your bids were in excess of $140 to $160 per square yard.
So the bids ranged from $359,000 to $789,000. So,
Some of the concerns, we reached out to some of the contractors to say, hey, why is this so high? Including some of the ones that didn't bid and some of them didn't bid. It was their concern that the contract timeframes would extend into colder weather at this time of year. Although, you know, we could construct it between now and November, but if things got delayed, they're bonding their insurance. And once they signed the contract, I think there's a 90-day construction timeframe, so there were concerns that they were gonna have some cold weather construction that we can craft that to give them a little more time, should
Yeah.
spring construction be more feasible and cost effective.
I'm fine with spring.
Yeah. Right now, I think it's probably the best right now is to extend the construction timeframe out into the better weather.
So to reject the bids, do we notify them?
Yes, I think you would take action on that, and we would notify that the bids were rejected, you will return any of their bid deposits.
You'll notify the 3?
My office will, we'll work with the village clerk to
Okay,
return
and
their
then,
deposits.
and then we'll talk about the future. Okay.
So while you still have me, we also, it's not on your agenda, but I think while I'm still here, the water treatment plant, we went out for quotations on that project for the sewer lateral, and those bids also came in
Yeah,
incredibly, the quotes, and I shouldn't say bids, came in very high.
yeah.
The one that you did receive, 3 people received the packets, 1 bid. That cost was $650 a linear foot, which is, in my opinion, outrageous for that.
I wanted to ask you about that. Should we reject it?
Yes,
We should.
absolutely. Yeah, it's 100 feet of 4-inch sewer lateral.
Okay.
So I would say that we would also go back out with that, reach out to some additional contractors, maybe we didn't put it, because it was a quotation, my office sent it out to various contractors that we work with quite often. And only one of them picked up, the rest of us told them they were too busy, they didn't want to take it on right now. So maybe if we put it in the newspaper and quasi-publicly bid. There's no way this should be over the bidding limits. Even at $35,000, that would be $350 a foot, which is well in excess of what a 4-inch sewer lateral should cost. So I think if we get additional bids in the village, we'll get some prices that are more reasonable.
Okay, is the board okay with where we are now with everything?
So you just authorize us, we'll package that back up and solicit some additional quotations. If we would. I think we're going to try it, yeah. I anticipate If it comes in higher than $35,000, it's just not, the value's not there to award.
Next on the agenda is, yes,
Do you need to motion those rejections now?
we can do that right now, so we're going to combine them. Are you okay with that?
Is Elise okay with that?
Are you okay with that?
Yes.
Okay. So I would ask the board that someone make a motion that we reject the bid for the north end sidewalks and the sewer line that needs to be put in at the water plant.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Motion by trustee Livesey, seconded by trustee Murphy. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay? All right, next on the agenda is just to introduce a local law instead of public hearing. Village of Highland Falls introductory local law to amend the property maintenance law. You have that before you. The good news here, if it's good news, it's not really good news, but since we have a lot of repeaters on property maintenance, on page 2 you'll see number D talks about 3 violations of the chapter within any rolling 12 months shall be constitute a criminal misdemeanor, and said offender shall be deemed a repeat offender. And it goes on number 2 and number 3, and it works itself up to $1,000 fine with a appearance ticket being
It would be. It's
an appearance ticket being issued. Now my question is, can the building department who issues the appearance ticket?
The building department.
Yeah.
Now, the building department currently, as you know, under the current code, can issue appearance tickets for a property maintenance violation to appear before justice court, criminal court. And this would be, and those are escalating fees, as you recall from our discussions. This would be in addition to that. So there would be separate, however, there would be separate noticing requirements, separate process of service requirements, and it would be mandatory. My suggestion is that you introduce the local law. It is referred tonight to the building department for comment, because since they would be the enforcement branch. So I'd like to hear from the building department as well as, since it's a consolidated building department, I'm sure the town attorney would also like to opine.
And I have a question on that too, Lisa. How would the building department issue an appearance ticket to an LLC that may be based in another state? And do they have to do that in person? Or how would they even issue an appearance ticket to a bank?
It would be issued to the Department of State as agent for the LLC. And it would also be posted on the property itself. You would mail it, you'd try to serve it in person. That's not going to be easy or maybe impossible. So the law allows for service on the Department of State as well as mailing it to the door or mailing it on the property.
In the bank?
So that's how, I'm sorry.
And the bank is the same process that Jim has?
Any LLC, any corporation,
Okay. The building department would do that,
the
right?
building department will do that. But that's how, the same way they would do it now.
I just wanted to make sure.
The building inspector is on vacation this week, but I do believe that he had a conversation with the town attorney on the whole LLC issue. Just a technicality, is the repeat offender penalty section D or E? There are 2 Ds.
It's amended by adding a new D. I don't think there is a D now.
Well, performance of work, maybe it has a D inserted where it doesn't need.
Well, yes, but that's a whole new section. 170-7 point
Oh,
one
okay.
is an
Is
entire
the
new
D,
section.
yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So subsection 178 is the subsection that that this is inserted in, and it's a new D, there is no D in that.
Okay, so if I could have a motion to have a public hearing on this local law that's being introduced on November the 5th at 7 o'clock.
I'll make a motion that we can.
Motion by trustee Howard, is there a second? Second by trustee Ramus, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
I would just, again, ask Charlie if we could tell the building inspector that I'm going to go ahead and refer this to him and to the town attorney for their comments, if that's okay with the board.
So you'll refer,
I'll send it.
you'll send this to the building department?
Yes.
All right. Next on the agenda is set another public hearing. I'd like it to be on November the 5th. And it's introducing a local law to amend the zoning law to reduce the minimum requirement for square footage on a dwelling unit, on dwelling units. You have that before you, and with questions, and let me say this, on both local laws, the previous and then this one here, questions, feel free to call the village attorney and before November the 5th, and hopefully get them answered. If there has to be changes, we can do it. And so the second introduction is, again, on dwelling, square footage on the dwelling units, and set for November the 5th. If I could have a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Motion by trustee Livesey, is there a second?
Second.
Second by trustee Howard, all in favor? Opposed?
We spoke about this a while back, and this is
Yep.
important
Yep.
Mr. Mayor, I would just advise the board that this is a zoning change, and it has secret implications. So we will need to look into that. I will prepare an EAF. And we can go from there as well.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, would you advise what the existing law is and what the reduction of square footage is?
What I'll do, Ned, is actually give you a whole copy of this, and in fact, you can have this one. Okay.
What about the rest of us?
The local law.
You'll make you one too tomorrow, you'll pick it up.
The local law is available.
Discuss what? Picking it up?
No, just tell us whether or not.
It's a local law, it's
But
being
can you
introduced,
verbally,
excuse me. It's a local.
just verbally say, can we have less or more square footage for dwelling?
It's less. Right now, I think it's 1,200 square feet, whether you have a one-bedroom, a two-bedroom, or a three-bedroom. You had that 1,200.
Perfect. That's all we needed to know.
That's what I
And
got.
now, is there additional parking that needs to go along with that as well? For So, each apartment? Elise, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it's just 3 lines in essence that we're changing, because we're adding the existing single-family detached dwelling, converted to 2-family, correct?
Yes.
Right.
We have structured this local law for the board to review,
Right.
is that everything is the same from the old local law, with the exception that the 1,200 square foot minimum is for newly constructed single and two-family detached dwellings. So that doesn't change.
John?
That's different.
What changed is a column was added that existing, and it only affects, right now you can, in certain districts, and only in certain districts within the village, you can convert a one-family to a two-family. So, and they would be subject to the 1,200 square foot minimum. So we've added a column that says existing single-family homes that are being converted. And again, they can only be in certain districts. Then the minimum is by bedroom, 1, 2, and 3 bedroom. So 1 bedroom is smaller than a 3 bedroom minimum.
Okay.
And this local law will of course be in Village Hall for anyone to review and get a copy of.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is a resolution increasing the property maintenance administration fee. That's something we've talked about too. Whereas local law 1/2018 allows for the establishment by resolution a schedule of administrative fees for property maintenance violations. And whereas the municipal fee schedule should be amended to include a property maintenance administrative fee schedule. And whereas a number of property maintenance violations has increased significantly with more properties becoming rental properties. And whereas the administrative time spent by the village clerk, the deputy clerk, the village treasurer, the village employees to maintain files, invoices, collect, send certified mailings, re-levy unpaid fees to property tax bills to repeat and new offenders has significantly increased. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby adds a schedule of administrative fees for property maintenance violations to the municipal fee schedule as follows. Section 170-7G, description, property maintenance administration fee, fee or change, $300 per violation. Be it further resolved that this schedule may be modified from time to time in the same manner. Right now, I believe it's $200, and so we're raising it $100, which is, to be honest with you, long overdue. May I have a motion?
Oh, please, yes.
Motion by trustee Murphy. May I have a second? Trustee Ramos. May I have roll call?
Trustee Alward.
Aye.
Trustee Lindsay.
Aye.
Trustee Ramus.
Aye.
Trustee Murphy.
Aye.
Mayor Demakia.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you.
Just to mention too, speaking as a taxpayer and not speaking as a trustee right now, I'm very happy to hear this. Because this stuff that we're putting out right now is long overdue. And this is a great thing. Some people are not going to be happy with this. This is good.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is requesting real property tax exemption of the village-owned water supply, which is Bog Meadow. You have that before you. This is an annual thing that we ask the county for. So we need a motion to ask again this year to be exempt from taxes.
So
County.
moved.
Motion by trustee Murphy. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by trustee Ramos. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Gina, you'll send that to them? Thank you. And next we have Roundout Consulting Agreement, which was tabled last meeting. And yesterday, Sunday, I received an email from Olga Anderson. And Olga Anderson brings up three very good points. One or two I heard from another village trustee also. So she says that she can't make it here tonight due to work. These comments are related to the proposed new consulting agreement with Roundout. And they read as follows. And this will go in, do you have this, Gina? Okay, we'll put it in the record, okay? 1, this new agreement, as well as the previous agreement, relied on the involvement of a reorganization study committee, as well as the village and town boards. I am not aware of the current existence of a reorganization study committee, and therefore request that members be named to this committee prior to the concurrently with the signing of this agreement. That will be done. I'm saying that will be done. Right now, it's the village board. 2, according to task 1 of the new agreement, which relates to the creation of the municipal reorganizational study, it will draw on the work previously completed by the police reorganization study. We have not yet seen the final report of the previous police reorganization study. Therefore, it is not clear to me how we can proceed with this next phase without this being delivered. Please clarify the availability of the final report relative to the police reorganization prior to signing this agreement. Otherwise, it does not seem to be valid. I totally agree with Olga Anderson on this. It's been brought up at public meetings that, as I had a meeting with Tim Wiederman, who again is not being able to be reached, that let's finish the police report. Chief, who was in the room with us? It was a couple of, you were there, right? And he said, well, let's just put this off to the side right now and move on. That was unacceptable that day. It's been unacceptable since then, and I'm glad that Olga Anderson sees it the same way. We need to go back to where we left off, not put that over here and start with something else. 3, I do not see any penalties in the new agreement if the consultant does not meet its required deadlines. Since there has been a significant issue relative to communications and things being delivered in the previous interactions of this work effort, I submit that some penalty be included in the new agreement if the deliverables are not met on time, or if the consultant once again goes off the grid. Well, he's off the grid. So, Elise, can we, in the next days, talk about number 3, which I'll give you this, which is some penalties in there if the agreement isn't held to. I do agree, going back to number 2 with Olga, I agree with Olga Anderson on all 3 of these, especially number 2 and number 3. And so, I think that this agreement here needs to be worked on, just a little bit more.
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah.
When you had an opportunity to speak to Tim, I am aware that he is now working for the county executive in Ulster County. Does he have additional staff who are available to us?
You don't take this to the bank, but you can start to the bank. No. No. I don't, no, the answer to you is definitively no, but I believe that he doesn't have the staff. I don't know how, yeah. That's
We used to work in tandem with Peter Fairweather.
Yeah.
And Peter is a responsible planner. If that relationship still exists, I feel a little more confident.
I can find out, I can find out 2 ways, one of 2 ways. I can either keep calling Tim, which I will do, and I'm keeping track of all the times I call him with no answer. And just so everyone knows, I didn't hire this consultant, so whatever that's worth. But if he doesn't answer, then I will call the state and talk to a gentleman, Carl, who is working with me on the grant, on the payment of the grant to Round Out Consulting. And in fact, I'll get to it here, I did ask for an extension from the state, and they gave it, when I come across it here, it's way into the future, so we have time with the state.
Right.
Okay, I think you all received this too? Okay, so I would ask this to be tabled till November the 5th.
I agree.
And I'm not sure what will happen on November 5th, but I'll do what I said I'm going to do to make this happen on November 5th. And I'll talk to you, Elise, about it. I got a big to-do list here. Let's see. Next on the agenda is the resignation of a part-time police officer, Daniel D'Alessio, effective the 12th of October, 2018. You have that before you. I would like to thank you for giving me the opportunity to be a part-time member of the Highland Falls Police Department. I am, however, writing you to respectfully submit my 2-week notice ending my employment with the police department. I would like to thank you again for all you have done for me and wish you and your department the best moving forward. Daniel D'Alessio. Can we accept it?
I'll make a motion and wish him the best.
Motion by trustee Livesey, is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by trustee Ramos, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Next, we have a memo from the chief. Police officer Bailey has completed the maximum 78 weeks of probation on as of October the 3rd, 2018. There has been no issues during his probation period, and I do not foresee any issues with him as he continues his employment with us. May we have a motion to remove him from probation? Would be appropriate.
Make a motion.
Motion by trustee Livesey, seconded by trustee Ramus. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. The next item we did already, the fire. We have a memo from the fire chief, Eric Smith. I am requesting the village board approve the following applicants for membership. Wendell Washington, approved by the Highland Falls Fire Department Council in membership, past medical background clearance done. Sandra May, former member, she's returning, approved by the Highland Falls Fire Department Council in membership, background clearance done, requesting this may be approved pending a physical. You okay, Gina? Motion to accept these two new members into the Highland Falls Fire Department.
So moved.
Motion by trustee Murphy, is there a second?
Second.
Second by trustee Ramos. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Next, we have an event, Halloween, Wednesday, October 31 at Roe Park from 5:30 to 8 o'clock, sponsored by the town of Highlands. You have that before you. Also,
It's the center and the town, we're combining.
okay, and so you know that from now on, when someone gives in their insurance, which they have to for an event, that it's going to have to specifically say that the event that they're saying they have insurance for is actually listed by the insurance company, not just a generic cover. So anyway, could I have a motion to approve this event on October 31, 5:30 in the evening to 8 at Roe Park?
I'll make it.
Motion by trustee Livesey, is there a second?
Second.
Second by trustee Murphy, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
What night is the trunk or treat? Is that the same night?
Same night.
Yeah.
Same night?
I think, except that the only kids will be with us.
This is for
That's where we
teens.
get the candy from the trunk.
Yeah.
Double dipping.
Double A, a lot of chocolate. I take all the Reese's.
I get the impression that trunk or treat is for the little kids, and this is more for the teens.
Mr. Zizi, we'll be talking. Are you leaving?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Next on the agenda is an event form also, health and information fair for older adults. Older adults, Friday, the 26th of October, right here at the Senior Center. 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. on the 26th of October, here. Health and information fair for older adults. Everything's in order, so I would just ask for it to be approved.
Make a motion.
Motion by trustee Howard, is there a second?
Second.
Second by trustee Ramos, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Next, we have our bi-monthly list of property maintenance. The addresses today are 128 Mountain Avenue, 20 Lake Street, 14 Lake Street, 22 Mountain Avenue, 11 Mountain Avenue, which is vacant, 6 Catherine, 6 Cooks, 122 Mers, and 155 Main. Many of these are repeaters. Again, we've increased the fee, and it'll start, when we adopt the law, it'll start as, that'll be your number 1 time, if you're on this list.
Yes.
Okay. So with those addresses in mind, I'm sorry, I'll open the public hearing. Sorry, Jane. Is there anyone here, owner or representing any of those addresses? Whereas a long-standing violation of the village's property maintenance law, Chapter 170 of the Village of Highland Falls Code has existed on each one of the properties above, designated on the tax map, as noted above. Whereas the property owner or owners have been given due notice of said violations and have been directed to correct the violations. And whereas the property owner or owners were given due notice of a public hearing to be held by the Board of Trustees on the 15th of October, 2018 at 7 p.m. to determine whether the violations have been properly remedied and whether to order that corrective action be undertaken by the village to correct said violations of the property owner's costs and expense, to bill said costs and expense to the property owner and to levy same against the property. And whereas the public hearing was duly held by the Board of Trustees on the 15th of October 2018, and whereas the owner or owners did not appear, and whereas the owners have not taken any steps to correct the violations, and the violations still exist, and whereas the Board of Trustees is authorized pursuant to 170-2 of the Property Maintenance Law to authorize that the village undertake to remedy such violations and property owners at the property owner's costs and expense. Now therefore, be it resolved that the village, its contractors or agents shall enter upon the property to correct the violations that all costs incurred by the village, including administrative, legal, corrective costs, be charged to the property owner, and such charge shall be added to the tax bill of the property owner if not paid within 30 days of notification to the last known address of the property owner as shown on the village tax records. May I have a motion?
Motion.
Motion by Trustee Howard. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Trustee Murphy. May I have roll call?
Trustee Howard?
Aye.
Trustee Lindsay?
Aye.
Trustee Ramus?
Aye.
Trustee Murphy?
Aye.
Mayor Demakia?
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you so much. We have bills and claims for fiscal year 18-19 of $41,219.39. I do know that the bills were reviewed at the Village Hall before tonight's meeting. May I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Trustee Howard. Did you make it out, Brian?
Yeah.
Okay, Trustee Howard, seconded by,
I'll second.
seconded by Trustee Murphy. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. This past week, I met with, over at Stewart Field with the IDA with an application that I applied on behalf of the village for $60,000 for engineering fees for the Restore New York, which is the removal of the paint from brick buildings. They've asked for some information that I should have had with me. And so it will be provided, and I will go back for a second time in November, and hopefully it will be approved, and then we can move on with that grant without it costing the taxpayers any money. I met with Congressman Maloney last week. Discussions were on census, grants, land return from the federal government, and businesses on Main Street. He was very receptive to listening, and I owe him now some information on a couple of these items, which I'm gathering, and we'll give it to him. And we'll see where we go. If I can get him before election time, it might be a little faster. I'll be meeting with the Village Beautification Committee and the Garden Club about fall, winter plantings. They have a suggestion for Roe Park for where the weeping willows came down that we'll do in the spring. I think it's going to be really, really nice. John, you'll be involved in those meetings. We want to look at the USAA garden at the north end here that the USAA has stopped maintaining. and that's fine. But that's all part of the meetings. Christmas lights and, as I have said before, the Christmas lighting ceremony. The Living in Highland Falls Facebook page is up and running. There's a meeting Wednesday with two of the administrators. One administrator lives in the village of Highland Falls, and the other one lives on West Point. This is actually going to work. This is the purpose of this is going to work. I've written a letter to the garrison commander and spoke to him actually personally, but followed it up with a letter that I would like him to approve what we once had through a request that I had made a few years ago, that businesses on Main Street be able to utilize the informational rack, if you will, when you enter the visitor center. You can put, a business can put whatever they like there, menus, whatever it is that they're selling. And also to bring back what I had asked for, and they had approved a small kiosk depicting our main streets where these stores are located. In the near future, talk to everyone in this kind of a setting about a new cadet study. The FEMA project for Havens Road, a letter was sent asking for an extension. Did we hear back? Not yet, but we just sent that letter. Okay, and tonight I would like to name Trustee Livesey because there's so much going on in the building department. And it's not within our control. Charlie, I'm going to have Merv help you so that you both become liaisons to the building department. We need help there, as you both know.
You got a lot going on.
A lot going on. And so I appreciate the effort that Charlie puts into it, and I appreciate the effort that you're going to put into it. Okay, Brian?
At the center this Wednesday, we're going to have a community meeting. We've been having it for some time with school districts and parents, and now we're going to stretch it out with business people, town officials, village officials, and people coming in. Chamber of Commerce will be there, and hopefully it will start at 6:30 this Wednesday.
Merv?
That's enough.
Okay. Listen, I went up to Grove Park again with John. I'm glad you're here. I looked at the bathhouse here, the old bathhouse, and I spoke to Aaron about this again. We're trying to find a solution to get rid of those sheds up there. And I really think making that bathroom up there a storage would be the ticket. I really do. I looked at the building, I looked at the structure of it. We have you here. It's just block. That's what it is. And for the inside of that and everything else, to gut that out. And I think Mr. Coppold would be happy about that, getting those sheds out of there. I would see leaving one shed at Grove Park for the activity of that time of what's going on. So this would make it easier with the equipment. But you would eliminate 3 of the sheds that are up there. And to be quite honest with you, some of those sheds have had their time. And you know that because you try to pick one up. So I think that's something really to look into now and to move forward on getting that done. I also seen today, John, you got rid of the crosswalk signs.
You would pick them up today.
That's because of the winter?
Yep.
Okay. So for everybody to be careful going through the crosswalk.
Well, the law still stays the same. You have right of way in the crosswalk. Right. In fact, it's changed. They can't even go, if you're halfway through, they can't go through the other half, you're completely over.
They work pretty well. You step near a crosswalk now, you might not even be going across. You know?
And Mayor, I know you mentioned about the kiosk, I'm glad to hear that. I think that would be a nice...
We need a kiosk over at Liddy.
That would be nice. That would be
we had one, we'll get it back. What I want to say to you about the bathrooms over at Grove Park and making them the extension. So this winter, earlier than later, we're going to meet more than once about the grant for Grove Park, and that might end up being a little bit part of it. We'll see.
Do you remember the last time they were used?
No, I don't remember what.
Because I don't remember either.
No, they're kind of scary.
Not in the
Really,
last,
really scary.
not in the last.
They're a great storage, it's a great storage building, that's what it is. And I think, Mr. Coppola, I think that would be good for you too.
Pardon me?
I think that would work for you to get those out of there and eliminate it.
Yes.
One cautionary aspect, restoring bathrooms to the pool area was a major part of the grant.
I understand, I understand.
So it will necessitate.
But the only way I look at that is I understand that, and again, we've gone, I don't know how many years with that pool open with not having those bathrooms. So
I'm just bringing it up.
I understand.
And that's all we're going to talk about.
Yeah, we can talk. I understand. I understand.
Are they ADA?
They aren't currently ADA compliant now, that was some of the costs associated with that. Was to get them ADA compliant, but the doorways aren't, any of the existing internal to the building is not.
That's gotta be done.
And just the last thing, not to sound like Mr. Trustee Ramos on this, I'm going to take his.
We're talking about DEC?
I'm not going to talk about DEC, but I'm going to tell everybody there's a lot of wildlife out there right now running around. Be careful if you have little animals and you decide to leave them out or something like that, because in the past couple of weeks, I've seen it all out there, and Jim, I'm sure you have too. And they're lively right now, everywhere. And there's a lot of them.
So it's meeting season, isn't it, for the year? October.
Charlie?
On the building department has made 88 total physical inspections for this past month. I did check this morning on any additional progress with the Old Guard Hotel. They have removed the building, as we've discussed before. Nothing new as far as going forward with the new building. I think everyone is aware that there are rumors afoot of other things happening in the village, but no building permits have been sought yet at the building department, so that's still a standby. And I think that's all I've got.
Charlie, just a question, if those pods that are up there, I noticed a lot of them are open. Last time I went by.
They're all open.
That's not good though. Am I right or wrong by saying that?
I agree.
Because it's, you know, like a refrigerator, you have restrictions on the doors just in case somebody, but maybe we can contact them again if those doors have to be closed,
Could we ask Bruce to contact them?
Yeah, sure.
you know?
You said Bruce is off?
Bruce is on vacation right now, but Kim is.
The girl, yeah,
still-
okay. Let's ask her to get someone. Jim?
The wastewater treatment facility, last month we did 778 million gallons a day. We had a lot of rain, so that definitely brings up the amount of volume that goes in there. We know a lot of people are still pumping their sump pumps into the sewers. That only costs the village taxpayers more money when we have to actually treat water that doesn't need to be treated. So if you do have a sump pump, I just urge you to make sure it spills on the outside of your property. It can sheet flow on your property, it recharges the aquifer, it's all good for the environment as well. The facility met all New York DEC speedies permit limitations. Pellwood and Webbling pumping stations are operating properly. The belt press was only in operation 6 days again, something that we are continuing to work on, getting all of the specifications and bids out with the engineer. Again, one of the operators down there came up and helped with the street and water departments on some leaks. He's very knowledgeable. He has went to many classes on those water leaks. He's an asset to have there, where our two departments can share manpower. Cleaning and scraping continues. I did speak with the superintendent down there when we do this belt press. I think that's an opportune time to go in there, power wash, do whatever we can, get all hands on deck when they pull out that belt press to make that room shine. It definitely needs it, but it's kind of tight spaces in there for them to get ladders up or any scaffolding. So once they pull that out, he said he's going to have the guys go in there and give it a good overhaul. It will only help the process and make it go by a lot quicker and safer. That's what I have on that. A couple of other things that are going on. Mr. Lizzie, I thank you for talking about the wildlife. I did get a comment from a few of the residents down in Ondura Park. They're talking about the coyotes down there. Yeah, so, you know, obviously we don't want to feed coyotes. So some of the things that you can do is, you know, don't feed your pets outside. Any garbage, make it inaccessible to not only the coyotes but the bears. We know the bears are around. Another thing that the coyotes like is birdseed. So right now, if you could just, you know, clean up the birdseed that the birds spill onto the ground at the end of the day, that always helps detract from coyotes coming into the home. If you do see a coyote, there's a DEC number. You can make a call to them. If you feel it's rabid, they will come down and take care of that for you. And you call up our local police officers, they can make that assessment also. Another great thing that's happening out there for the kids, right on the other side of the mountain at the Hudson Highland Nature Museum in Cornwall. As soon as you go over the mountain, it's right there at the bottom. On Saturday, October 20th, they are going to have a Run Wild race. And it's a 5K race. It starts at 9 o'clock in the morning, ends at 10:45. There is a registration fee. Early registration is a little bit less than the actual day, but that race, that fee also includes a race packet, t-shirt, and refreshments, along with some medals. You can register online at visithhnm.org. You can run or walk it, although it does end at 10:45. I'm sure they're not going to close the finish line down. One other festival out there, it's on October 19th, that's up in Kingston. It's a high water festival, again, family-friendly event. If you need to get out of the village, great place to go. That starts at, I believe, 2 p.m. And it will run, no, it starts at 4 p.m., I stand corrected, and it will run until 8 p.m. that day. Another great thing for the ladies out there, Becoming the Outdoors Woman Workshop, celebrating its 25th year. Last year that workshop had 125 ladies come together in 34 counties. It's a great way to get your spouse out there into the outdoors if you like getting out there and she was always wondering what you're doing. Believe it or not, she'll be out there more than you.
Is that gun shooting?
No, it's
What is it?
paddleboarding,
Paddleboarding,
yoga,
yoga,
hiking,
hiking.
how to get on the trails and handle yourself on the trails, different trails like that. So it's a variety. It's just not about one. And just so you know, Mr. Mayor, when you do go out in the woods, the best thing about getting out there is watching the sun come up and watching it go down. Anything in the middle is a bonus.
I'm not kidding. Especially having your wife with you. It's the best.
Absolutely.
Anything else, Jim?
Well, I got a big packet here. I have been getting some information.
Okay, you save it?
I can.
Okay. What I like about your reports is that there's a lot of, it's all family activities. That I don't know that. I don't hear about it. So it's good. Public comment. Public comment. Anyone? Yes.
No, you go ahead. You want to go?
Ned Copel, Highland Falls. At the last meeting, I asked the board whether they had the estimate for the damage to the sewer plant. And the mayor indicated they did not at that time. Does the board have information with regard to the extent of damage and the cost at this time?
No, I have an email here dated today that we were contacted and they wanted to look at what the engineer's report is, and I authorized that to be sent to the insurance company. So no, the answer to your question is no, we don't know yet. I will tell you it's going to be a lot of money, but that doesn't, what does that mean? You know, I don't have the exact amount and don't want to put something out there unless it's the exact amount. So we're going to know soon. And in fact, that's what this folder here is. I am going to give a full report going all the way back to December of 2017. Chronological order. I'm putting it together now. Up to the day of the fire, which was on the 15th of August. So that'll be soon. As soon as I have all the information, I'm going to do it.
Respectfully, the board doesn't need the insurance company to tell them what the extent of damage is. I would assume they can obtain that from their engineers and other experts. What the insurance company may establish might be substantially less than the village might have to pay.
Thank you.
One other request. At the last board meeting, the board recessed to executive session to deal with the question of a pending lawsuit involving the restoration of Chief Scott to the position he now has, apparently in violation of the contract that had been entered into by the village with the chief. What amount of money has the village board established to contribute to the legal fees related to that lawsuit?
Ned, what was the beginning part of that was we went into executive session to do what?
To deal with the question of a Article 78 or other proceeding brought by citizens in connection with Chief Scott's position.
And Elise, please, you're the expert here. But the lawsuit brought by Patrick Flynn, Laura Milsom, Sharon Guy, and Kat DeGaulle was against the village because they're saying they were harmed.
They brought a lawsuit, Ned, as you will understand, as an attorney, to overturn the vote based on an alleged conflict of interest. So that's what the lawsuit was brought about. The petitioners lost on standing, and they have appealed. That's all public knowledge, and the village is continuing to defend itself at the appellate division.
But when the village board came back into session, I don't believe the audience was still here. And my request is, what action did the village board take at that time, number one? Number two, to what extent has the village board authorized the payment of legal fees in connection with this appeal that Ms. Terhune has identified?
Okay, so you have two questions. The first one is, it was reported. If no one, believe me when I tell you this, we're going into executive session tonight. I don't know if there's anything when we come out of executive session, but if there is, before the sun comes up, the newspaper knows about it. Just like she did 2 weeks ago, and it was reported, I'm sure you saw it in the News of Highlands, what we did.
I didn't see, with regard to the question I asked, or wouldn't have asked it.
Oh, you didn't see it in the paper? Okay, so what the village board did, when they came out of the executive session, there was a vote taken that the village be represented on the appeal. That's what the vote was.
And my question is, to what extent has the village authorized the payment of legal fees
That's your second question.
in connection with the lawsuit?
Are you asking how much has the village decided they'll spend up to?
Yes.
No. No. I think, listen, let me say something here. I think, opinion, I'm entitled to one sometimes. I think it's a shame. I think it's a crime, not a crime, but I'm going to use the word. That the village has to spend village taxpayers' money on this lawsuit. In my opinion, it's frivolous. It's frivolous. And we will win the appeal, and then it's over. But the village is being sued, so the village should be represented. And that's what we are. And that's what we are. When the final amount comes of how much we spent, the taxpayers will know. And again, I will say exactly what I just said. It's a shame. It's a shame. It's a shame that the taxpayers have to spend money on this frivolous lawsuit. That's all I can tell you tonight, Ed.
My question is, how much has the board already spent?
I don't know.
How much has it authorized?
I told you we didn't authorize a dollar amount, not to exceed. I already told you that. As far as what we spent already, I can get that in a day or two.
Did that? Thank you. Was there an authorization of an additional retainer in connection with this new appeal?
I don't know what that means, so you're going to have to answer it. What did I ask it again?
My question was there an authorization to pay an additional or money to retain counsel on this new matter? And if so, who is the counsel?
The village attorney was authorized me to file an opposing brief at the second department. They did not authorize me to spend up to a certain amount of money. They simply authorized the village attorney to defend on the appeal.
And is there an agreement as to what that amount is?
No.
Or is anticipated?
No, that's the third or fourth time.
That I don't know.
Pardon me?
No.
Is there any writing as to
There is
your
no
compensation?
separate retainer.
Pardon me?
There has been no separate, I did not ask for a separate retainer for filing that appellate brief. I did not ask for a separate retainer.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else? Yes.
Patrick Flynn, 1 Muller Avenue. First, I just want to mention that the green bins, there's 4 or 5 of them in the public. I haven't seen the village receive any money publicly, but according to the owner of those green bins that collect the clothing and whatnot, he should be giving us at least $600 to $800 a year. And I haven't seen that, so I just want to remind the board, you need to follow up with, because he's not going to come and say, hey, by the way, I owe you money. You have to go to him, and each individual place that he has them on receives money, and he also gives the village money every year. That's something we need to follow up on. The main thing I'm here for today, board members were very vocal last meeting about the fact that bounce houses better not be at the event on Saturday. We'll look into it, see if it's okay. 2 very large bounce houses were on Main Street at the grand opening of the bakery, and it's my understanding that one board member said we can't have them because according to the last meeting, it was stated after looking at the insurance, there shouldn't be bounce houses. And So one board member said it needs to shut down. Then I was told another board member went and said, nope, put them back up. It was also stated very clearly that this board will look into what's to happen prior to the bakery opening. I didn't want to actually bring anything up about it because I'm all for whatever he wants to do. They weren't my inflatables, so they weren't local, they were somebody else's, which is fine. But they were allowed, and yet the week prior, at a 5-year-old birthday party that was ruined because the police were told they need to go and tell them they can't use a bounce house because they're not allowed in our village. It wasn't on the agenda, but I understand it was brought up earlier before I came that our insurance company doesn't cover inflatables. I made that statement at least 4 times in this room. I made it. I called our insurance company when I was the mayor, before I was the mayor, and after I was the mayor. Our insurance company does not cover inflatables. Neither does any municipal insurance company in Orange and Rockland County. And yet every other community has inflatables. Why? I explained it then, but it doesn't seem to be addressed by this board. At all the other communities, the board decides if a company has the proper insurance, we will allow that company to utilize their product in our village. She gave me an example, and I gave it at the last meeting, but it doesn't seem to be addressed. New City or Nanuet had a huge inflatable, not covered by the insurance. They're the same insurance that we use. And she stated to me, the board said, it's a great fundraiser, it's a great event, and the group has the proper insurance. So my question is, why was the bakery allowed to use inflatables on Main Street, and that family was not allowed to use the inflatable at Roe Park? First one that I would like the board to answer. Just so people understand that it's not a inflatable issue, according to my conversation with the insurance, our insurance also does not cover fireworks. That makes sense. They're pretty dangerous. But we still have fireworks every 4th of July. That's because the firework company carries the proper insurance.
Right.
I asked 2 other quick questions of our insurance company. Well, do you cover dog shows? No. Yet we had village-sponsored dog shows years ago, no insurance. Not only not covered by our village, but no additional insurance requested either. Do you cover boat rides down the Hudson in our insurance policy? No. But yet, this village board sponsors boat rides down the Hudson, the mayor's boat ride, which it doesn't matter that it was board sanctioned or not. Once you put the mayor on the flyer and hand it out to the community, that is a village event, and we are responsible. That is not covered. No extra insurance was gotten. I want to see them continue. They're great events. We need the proper insurance. It's not happening. But yet, with my business, because I ran against the mayor, I'm not allowed to have my business. I've been here for 20 years. Never a problem. Up until there was a problem with the mayor or not. Now there's a problem with our inflatables, and they're not covered and we can't have them. All I'm asking is the board to make a vote, which it should have been on this agenda because I asked it last time. The board to make a vote that talk to the insurance company. I asked several board members to call the insurance company. Was that done? Did you call the insurance company and talk to them? Probably not. I asked the board members to. Here's the reason why. You need to ask the question yourself because for years, the wording has been wrong. Right off the bat, well, can we have inflatables? Well, our insurance company doesn't cover it, so we can't. That's wrong. Our insurance company doesn't cover it, so the board has to vote whether they approve a company with the proper insurance to use inflatables in the village. That is exactly from our insurance company. And that is why every other town in Orange and Rockland still have inflatables at all their events that they do, because they follow their municipal insurance. I am being targeted because I ran against the mayor and beat him. That's why I'm being targeted. My business is being targeted. I'm a taxpayer here for many years, and a business owner and donating my business to the community many years, and yet I'm being targeted, and it's wrong. So the points, fireworks, dog shows, boat riding. I would ask that it's 5 minutes. Each board member, so you're not listening to another board member's interpretation. Take 5 minutes of the day so that this business isn't continually discriminated against. Call the insurance company and ask them a simple question.
Listen, Pat, I would say publicly, okay, publicly. You know, when we're talking about these floats, we're talking about the kids. That's what we're talking about, okay? Plain and simple. Unless you got adults bouncing in bouncy houses going on. But anyway, we're talking about the kids. If the village's insurance company prohibited bouncy houses, okay? However, legally, okay, if somebody were to come into the village and say, and we found out legally that this was permissible, to have that person come in with a proper insurance, I, as a village trustee, would not have a problem with this.
And I appreciate that.
As long as the village had no liabilities behind that. Because the reason I say that is because for what I also do, which many of you may know, what I do part-time, I don't want to put the kids into something where if there's an opportunity for the kids to have something like that in the village, that's good for the village. And that's the way I look at it. So if the attorney could look into this, that if that is proper of what Pat is saying, I would be for that. I would not have a problem with that. And I'm saying this speaking for myself as a trustee.
And I appreciate that, and I appreciate you asking Elise, but I believe each and every one of you board members that were elected by this village are able to make a phone call to the insurance company yourself so that you know yourself and you don't get Elise's interpretation or somebody else's interpretation of, because that's happened. And you've asked Elise in the past and the answer was, our insurance company doesn't cover it. That's not what the insurance company says.
I'd rather hear it from the attorney.
A question,
That's just me.
when you say you do this in Orange and Rockland under your insurance, do you name the municipality as an also?
Standard. Standard, and we do long events as well, like a 3-month event every Saturday type thing. And it's all mapped out in the insurance the way it's supposed to, and I pay a lot for it. And again, let's not get it wrong either, I make very little, next to nothing on village property. It's not about that. It's about I can't, and now no one can, because I've said something, now no one can do inflatables. We can't do a National Night Out, you can't do a 4th of July. Who loses? The kids. National Night Out, free, every year I did them. Almost every event on village property I did for free.
Yeah.
Okay, where I make my money in this town, which again is not that much, is when individuals use it. You will see the inflatables at a fall festival. I hope everyone's there, Fall Foliage Festival. But they'll be in Holy Innocents, so it won't be village property. Since you did ask, and I appreciate you answering that question, can anyone tell me why the bakery was allowed? And I know there were at least 3 or 4 board members there because they were laughing at me as I was taking pictures of the inflatables. 2 of them were. Can anyone tell me why the bakery was allowed to have the 2 large inflatables on Main Street? Anyone? The ones that were there. I know Trustee Allward was the one that said, we talked about it in the meeting that we can't have them, so they should be taken down. And I appreciate that, Trustee Allward. I feel bad because I'd rather them up for the kids, but at least we're staying with the law that we've stated in this village. But then, almost immediately, right back, one of the other board members said, nope, put it back up. And I went right back up, and they were up for the entire event. Can anyone tell me why they were allowed to be up? Trustee Raines, you were there.
They were approved, if you look at the minutes by the whole board.
Why were bounce houses approved for that event and not the 5-year-old party 2 weeks ago?
Pat, they weren't supposed to be bounce houses, and
Okay,
the bounce
first of
house
all-
wasn't there.
Yes.
The
No,
law
Charlie,
that
wait.
we saw,
You're right.
or the information from the insurance company, put it under trampolines.
Okay, just so we understand something, it's not bounce houses, it's inflatables. It's any inflatable. You have a slide there, very tall slide. You're not telling me that's dangerous? If something goes awry? Everything's dangerous if it goes awry if it's not done properly. And that's why you have insurance and that's why you do it the right way. So, do you not understand that bounce houses, slide, anything inflatable is one category? And again, that's why I ask for you to call the insurance company, because they will tell you emphatically, any inflatable is an inflatable. It has nothing to do with a bounce house. But then I heard that morning that, well, these don't have roofs, so it's okay. Well, neither do my bounce houses. They don't have roofs. They have 4 posts. So again, I asked, why was that event okay to have inflatables and not my event?
Okay.
You're saying it's because it's a
Are you
slide?
done?
No.
Okay, go ahead.
Well, I'm asking that question. You
When
answer
you're done, I'm
questions.
gonna answer all your questions.
Well, just answer that question.
No, I'm gonna answer all your questions.
Well, that'll be my last thing for the inflatables.
I've given you 6 minutes, 8
Well,
minutes.
Mr. Ramos, do you have any answer to that? Why you're okay with a slide and not a bounce house?
I think that the mayor is going to answer your
Yeah.
question.
He won't accept that, that's right. Okay, what else you have?
Okay. Well, the other question on that? I know you had insurance for the event. Did you actually get insurance from the inflatable company? And was that there on time? You had mentioned that we're looking into the sewer plant and the cost, and you talked to the insurance company. Is that our insurance company or the insurance company of the contractor that started the fire?
Our insurance company.
Why aren't we going to the contractor that started the fire?
Who said we're not?
You just did. You said our insurance company.
No, you asked, who was I talking about?
So-
I'm not gonna sit here and have this.
I'm not gonna-
And I'm telling you.
So is there insurance other than the villages?
That'll all be discussed in the future.
Okay.
Who's the company? Nobody ever heard.
I would, a big part, it's been brought up the last 2 meetings, the fact that we're trying to get additional money for the $500,000 grant that we already received to improve 8 or 9-ish buildings on Main Street. A fantastic program, but I feel every time it's discussed, at very least, Barbara Manetti's name should be brought up. She was the one who carried it from start to finish, and even after it was done, the grant, she continued to push it, and I just have never heard her name when we keep bringing up this awesome event. She did have help, don't get me wrong, but Barbara was the main person. So I'd like to thank Barbara Manetti. And also, for those that don't know, as part of her efforts, there is a charging station in Lot 2. And it's an electric charging station, which people are like, well, why would we do that? Because we don't really have any electric cars. The reason why that was pursued was so that people that are traveling on their phone, it tells them where electric charging stations are. So we were looking to attract more people to the downtown Main Street for our businesses, as well as for those people that did have electric cars. And there was a plaque on there that says, thanks to the village board. This is here for thanks to the village board. I'm just making a statement that I think Barbara Manetti's name, as well as a few other people that made the effort for the charging station, should be on there. The village board was only a mechanism that she worked through to get it done. There wasn't really much work done on the village's board's part, as much as Barbara and the other individuals. And I think that if we're looking for these people to continue to fight for our village, they're not looking for a pat on the back, but when they get these kind of triumphs, I think we really need to thank them. And in a way, if you're going to put a plaque there to begin with, I think Barbara Manetti and the other people from the chamber should be recognized. And during your comments, you had kind of made the statement that you're starting up the pamphlets over at the visitor center again. I just want people to understand that That never stopped. We constantly, and it wasn't me per se, but I made sure by checking with the chamber, because the chamber is the people that deal with business. And we share the burden of getting this village better. And I touched base with West Point, then handed it off to the chamber, and the chamber constantly was making sure that every available thing that can go onto West Point went onto West Point. And I want to thank them for that. So that wasn't really we're restarting anything. It's the fact that, you know, and again, if you wanted to know what was going on, you probably want to go to the chamber and talk to the chamber, because that's our business group. And I agree with you, 100%, Mayor D'Onofrio. It is a shame. It is a shame that the taxpayers have to pay for lawyers for this issue. And let's make it clear. When it started and when it finished, the village made a decision, a very hard decision, that I definitely didn't want to make when it started out. We made a hard decision because there were so many issues with our police department and we gave people many different chances, did not take them. So we moved forward at an Article 78 to remove the police chief. 11 p.m., the night before the hearing, I received a phone call from the other attorney saying a deal wanted to be made. The village did not want to make a deal. The village was ready to go. Conversation over, no more money spent. Because the other attorney wanted to make a deal, the gentleman in charge said, well, let's sit down and talk about it. The deal was that Chief Scott voluntarily resigns.
You got to be careful.
It's over.
Go ahead.
No. I talk to lawyers.
I want the attorney to speak.
I talk to lawyers.
Excuse me, you've been yelling up there for 15 minutes.
I'd like to hear what you have to say.
15 minutes.
Only 10.
And 20 minutes. May I have the attorney speak?
I really
Enough is
think
enough.
that, you know, let's not get into confidential information
Right.
that
That's not confidential.
Say it.
Not confidential.
Excuse me.
Shared, that should potentially be shared only with the board in light of the litigation. I would ask you to refrain.
I agree with you.
I'm going to move on.
And that's all it does.
Okay.
Please can back me up. Were the people told at that hearing that an agreement was made?
That is public knowledge.
Thank you. That's all I'm saying, so let's relax. An agreement was made.
He says let's relax.
The police chief said, I will resign, but I will get my retirement. And that was fine by us.
Okay, that's it. That's it. All right, thank you. I'm gonna have you remove him if he doesn't stop.
Seriously?
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah, that's serious.
I know it's serious to you.
Okay, let me answer what I can here. Thank you.
Okay, you got to cut it off.
All right, let me answer what I can.
Once, you calm down.
Okay, this is a little too much, and I put up with it. I apologize to the community, but here we go. Pat, or Mr. Mayor, I actually think that you are one of the best mayors this village ever had.
I agree.
How about that? Okay, number two, as you all know, I don't answer letters in the News of the Highlands, negative letters. I don't answer them. You all know that. Very seldom. I mean, like, you can't even count them on one hand in 30 years. I just don't do it. Because it doesn't matter. An exaggeration is an exaggeration. People know. I don't have to worry about convincing anyone. So, I want the community to know, there always was insurance when I had the dog socials, which have been years since I had it. That's number one. Number two, there always was, the village was always covered, not only by the fireworks people with insurance, certificate, but the village insurance backed the fireworks. If they didn't, then when the best mayor that we've ever had was mayor, we had fireworks for 4 years. What was that all about?
Because they had the
Excuse me, you're
proper
done. Number one, I encourage everyone on this board to call Scott Lieber.
Okay.
Okay? And he will tell you what he told me, because on Friday of last week, I called about the dog show, I called about fireworks. Now, because you came in late, in the beginning of the meeting, I said that the board made a mistake, including me, including me. Not being in the business, I think of a bouncy house as something that a 2, 3, 4, 5-year-old gets in and they start jumping up and down. For which, by the way, a 3-year-old child last weekend was killed in Lincoln, Nebraska. Killed in a bouncy house. I thought that was a bouncy house. I didn't know that I didn't know that all inflatables are called bouncy houses, I guess. And the memo that I had, the email that I had at the last meeting that you asked to read, said inflatables. Inflatables. That was a mistake that the board made, including me, that we should not have allowed. It didn't say bouncy houses, it said inflatables. Inflatables are not allowed. We can talk about the kids. There's no one that does more for kids than probably everyone in this room, including me. You really should take your hat off. So, and I said to the board, if you want to override what the insurance company says and allow inflatables and allow bouncy houses, I guess you can do that. But we're putting the village at jeopardy because our insurance company says we don't have insurance for it. So, as I said, the village had insurance for the dog social, it had insurance for the fireworks. The boat ride? The boat ride hasn't happened in a few years. When the best mayor threw me out, I needed a break anyway, the boat ride stopped. They were for senior citizens, but they weren't sponsored by the village. It was me. Now, maybe I shouldn't have put mayor on the flyer. So next year, I'm going to put Joe Donofrio sponsoring the boat ride for senior citizens. And I hope I see all you senior citizens on the boat ride, because it's fun. As far as the flyers, it's a shame we have to bring this stuff up. There's no flyers over at the old Lady Cliff property when you walk into the visitor center. I don't care whose responsibility it was, or who didn't do it, or who did it. I only know that when I was mayor, I asked for it and received it, along with the kiosks, a map. It's gone. The map is gone, and the flyers are gone. Oh, I'm not going to sit up here and say it still continues if it doesn't. That would be stupid on my part. Okay? They're going to allow it. Somehow it fell between the cracks. Let's say that. Let's just say it fell between the cracks. Okay, I saw it down in the crack. I picked it up and I asked the garrison commander and he's going to allow it. That's something the chamber should do. So, the mayor left, as he did the last time, which is too bad. You really shouldn't stand up here and then walk out, but whatever. I can't control, I can only do me. I can't do you, I can't do you. As far as Barbara Minetti, at the village hall at a meeting, twice she was there. Twice I praised her. She got that grant. She got that grant. She did the paperwork. She didn't get paid. And she got it. She got it. So I did praise Barbara Minetti more than once in public. She deserved it. John, would you please get up, I don't mean to put you on the spot, and tell us all what that says down there at the charging station.
It's not a plaque for the village board members. What it is the village board.
John, I need you to get up to the microphone because I want the public to hear it.
The village board waived the fee of the electric. The village picks that up. There's nothing down there praising them other than charge your car free compliments of the mayor and village board, that's it.
Thank you, John. Okay, I am going to ask to go into executive session on personnel issues. But before we go, can I have a motion? Motion, what's that?
Anybody else?
Motion by trustee Livesey, and before I ask,
Gotta make a comment.
we got a motion on the table as soon as we come back.
Jim Modlin, resident of Highland Falls, taxpayer and voter. I'd just like to acknowledge trustee Ramus and your report on the wastewater treatment plant. But I'd also like to acknowledge Mr. Copal's question of a lot of interest in what the final report is that led up to the fire and what kind of exposure the village is going to have as a result of that. And also recognizing the mayor committing that there would be no taxpayer input or impact on this, which I believe was mentioned about.
I have no problem with saying that. I said that the taxpayer, what I said was, say what I said. I said that the taxpayers were going to be made whole on the damage at the wastewater treatment plant.
Okay, and
that's what I said.
That's great, and very interested in what the process is going to be.
And I'm not going to give half a report, I'm going to give a whole report. Thank you.
And so, thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, I have a motion on the floor from trustee Livesey to go into executive session. Before I do, I want to apologize. You're not asking for it, but I'm apologizing to you for the end of this meeting, the way it went down. It's terrible. So I apologize to the village attorney and to the village engineer. I'll take a second.
Second.
Seconded by trustee Murphy. May I, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.